It's time for another bedtime story.
Let's plop in. Hello, and welcome back to the Potty Mouth Show.
Guys, we want to let you know this show would not be possible without the help of our sponsor, Circle City Tent. They stick it where the sun shines and provides you the best in high-quality window tint for your vehicle. Right now, you can tint a full car just starting at $169.99, and that's any shade they have and a lifetime warranty. So don't miss out. Go check them out, 317-788-8468. But now, on to today's show.
Lifetime warranty.
Absolutely. We're going to be reading one of our producers' favorite childhood books in one of our favorite segments,
Between the Sheets.
Hi guys, welcome back to Between the Sheets. I'm Aaron, this is Blakey Poo.
Hi.
And today we're going to read one of our producers' favorite stories.
Ooh, what's
called
that?
Mr. Pine's Purple House. And as you can tell, it has been beaten up severely.
How old is the producer?
Well, the producer's 30.
That does not look like a 30-year-old.
What was her mom's book?
Holy.
It was her mom's and grandma's book.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So come here, get cuddly and cozy.
Did you wear purple on purpose?
I did.
Get it purple on purpose.
Okay, Mr. Pine's Purple House.
Ooh. Purple's a good color.
Purple is a good color.
Introduction.
Mr. Pine lived on Vine Street in a little white house. A white house is fine, said Mr. Pine, but there are no... Shit. A white house is fine, said Mr. Pine, but there are 50 white houses all in a line on Vine Street. How can I tell which one is mine? He looked up and down the street. I know, said Mr. Pine. I will plant a tree, a little pine tree, by my house. Pine tree, Pine's house, see, that's me. That's what I will do, he said, and that's what he did. Mr. Gold lived next door to Mr. Pine. What a nice little tree, said Mr. Gold. Mrs. Green lived next door to Mr. Gold. What a pretty tree, said Mrs. Green. Mrs. Brown lived next door to Mrs. Green. What a very nice tree, said Mrs. Brown. The next day, Mr. Pine looked out of his window. He wanted to see his little pine tree, but what did he see? He saw 50 white houses all in a line, and there was a little pine tree by each house. Oh no, said Mr. Pine.
Those bastards.
Now how can I tell which house is mine? He looked up and down the street again. I know, said Mr. Pine. I will plant a big bush next to the little pine tree. Big bush, big tree, Pine's house. See, that's me. He did. This, then he did this. And he did. Then he did this. And this. There, said Mr. Pine. That looks just fine. What a pretty bush, said Mr. Gold. Oh, how nice, said Mrs. Green. Very, very pretty, said Mrs. Brown. The next morning, Mr. Pine looked out his window. He wanted to see his big bush by his little pine tree, but what did he see? There were 50 white houses all in a line, 50 little green trees, all of them pine, and next to each tree there was a big bush. Oh no, said Mr. Pine. Oh no, all the houses still looked the same. Mr. Pine thought and thought. I know, said Mr. Pine. I will paint my house. He thought and thought some more. Let me see. He said, red, yellow, orange, no. Blue, green, pink, let me see. I know, I will paint my house purple. Then off he went to get the paint. I want to buy some paint, said Mr. Pine to Mr. Dash. I want to paint my house purple. Purple, asked Mr. Dash. Yes, purple, said Mr. Pine. Green is very nice, said Mr. Dash. No, said Mr. Pine. Red is very nice, said Mr. Dash. No, said Mr. Pine. White is very, very nice. No, 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 said Mr. Pine. I want purple paint. Purple paint, said Mr. Dash. Think of that. Well, for your house, you'll need 9 big cans of purple paint. I will need some brushes too, said Mr. Pine, and this, and then I need something to mix the paint and clean the brushes with. Mr. Pine put everything into his truck. He went to Vine Street. He put up a tall ladder here. He put his little ladder there. I have things to do before I paint, said Mr. Pine. Mix and fix, fill this and sweep this. Mix, mix, nix. Now the paint is just right. Now I can paint. Then Mr. Pine went up the ladder to the very top of the house. He began to paint. Squish, squish went the brush. Squish, squish, squish. Some boys were playing ball in their street, but Mr. Pine did not see them. A boy hit the ball up. The ball went up, up, up. It was a home run. Look out, Mr. Pine! Look out! The boys called, but Mr. Pine did not hear them. Pow! Down came the ball on Mr. Pine's hat. Pow! Down came the brushes, down came the paint, purple paint, down came Mr. Pine.
Ouch.
Yeah, it could not feel good from a 2-story house. Now I have to get more paint, said Mr. Pine. He went up the ladder again. Squish, squish went his brush. Squish, squish, squish.
He's a badass.
He'd brush it off like it was nothing.
Right?
Then Mrs. Gold's cat ran under the ladder. Mr. Pine's dog ran after the little cat. Round and round they ran. Meow, meow, meow. The little cat ran up the ladder, but Mr. Pine did not see her. Mr. Pine came down the ladder, down on the little cat's foot. Down came the cat, down came the brushes, down came the ladder, and down came the paint, and down came Mr. Pine. Pow! Now Mr. Pine had purple grass, a purple cat, a purple dog, and a purple hat. And a purple nose to go with that. Now I have to get more purple paint, said Mr. Pine. Up the ladder he went again. Squish, squish. Man, this guy is unstoppable.
Apparently so.
He fell off a ladder twice and he's still kicking.
Determined.
Squish, squish. Mr. Pine painted and painted until the house was all purple. Everybody on Vine Street came to look at Mr. Pine's purple house. No one had seen a purple house before. What a nice purple, said Mrs. Gray. I want to paint my house. What a pretty purple house, said Mr. Gold. I will paint my house. What a very pretty purple house, said Mrs. Green. I will paint my house too. Oh, no, 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 said Mr. Pine. Not 50 purple houses all in a line on Vine Street. But I will paint my house pink, said Mrs. Pine. Yellow for me, said Mrs. Green. Green for me, said Mrs. Brown. I like red, said Mrs. White. And I will keep my house all white, said Mr. Gold. Now there are 50 houses on Vine Street. There are red houses and green houses and brown houses. There are yellow and pink houses. And there are some white houses too. But there is just one purple house on Vine Street, and that is Mr. Pine's purple house. The end.
That was a lot of purple.
That was a lot of purple. What do you think, Blakey Poo?
It was pretty good. He was very resilient.
He is very resilient to fall off the ladder and keep going. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. Other than that, thank you guys for liking and subscribing.
Bye.
We'll see you guys next time on the Potty Mouth Show.